We call to order the regular scheduled meeting of Monday, October 10th, 2011, with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini.
Here.
City Clerk Patterson is here. Council members Ratty, absent. Lawson.
Here.
Smith, absent. Kerrigan.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
City Manager Sean Carey.
Here.
City Attorney Chet Adams.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum.
Okay, next is invocation speaker, but I don't see Pastor Butler anywhere in sight, so maybe he had a problem. So let's just move on. If you'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. Kerrigan, would you lead us?
Well, please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we have comments from the public. If you'd like to speak under comments from the public, please fill out one of these cards. Bring it down. I have one here. R.J. LaRue, come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is R.J. LaRue, and I run the Newton Learning Center here in Sparks, Nevada. We recently moved here from City of Reno, and came here personally to thank you all for making our move such a success and making it a lot easier than what it was supposed to be. And because of you, we were able to open our doors last week, and our kids had our first week of school, and it's been a tremendous change for them, and it's been great. Wednesday, we'll be having an open house introducing ourselves to Sparks and the community, and we would like to personally invite you all to please come attend our open house and meet our parents, meet our kids, see what we're all about and what we look to expand into this community. So I have a flyer here for everyone. If you guys would please take one.
I've already got one.
Thank you.
So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, R.J. Any questions for R.J.? You're off the hook. Okay. Okay, next is Dana Clegg. Come on up, sir. You have 3 minutes. Come on down and sit down and get in front of one of the microphones there so we can get you on the record. Got to be a first time for everything, Dana.
That's true. 1975, I got badly hurt by a real bad shotgun blast. And it's put me permanent disability at a young age. Now, I lived in California for 50 years. I know the laws. I know the situation. And I'd like to see what they're doing downtown is giving permits out to people who carry guns. That's not a wise idea. I've been against guns since I was about 17 years old, where I lost a good friend of mine, got killed. And younger age, I had a gun pulled on me by CHP. I'd like to see the gun laws get a little stiffer, and just not in Nevada, but I know it's going to take time. I'm really against guns after what happened to me. I don't like guns at all. I'd like to see something done. I don't know how it's going to work. But carrying a gun downtown, I don't see no option really doing that. Because all you're doing is asking for trouble. I'm 59 years old. Like I said, I'm permanent disabled. I can't do nothing. I haven't worked since I was 34, 35 years old. I've been out on the streets. I've been there, done that. I like to pay back the community, trying to get in to helping teenagers and talk to them about what the street life and gangbang is all about. There ain't no place for nobody to be at. I finally got in. I'm listening to KOH News on AM radio. I've been listening to that a lot. I'm on that constantly every day. They're talking about what the drugs and the the guns and the drugs in the community, what's going on. I've been around the block. I respect that the budget, the police officers, I know they got a tough job to do. And, you know, I know it's the best time for anybody to be unemployed. But I'd just like to piece my opinion to see if there's something I could do to help out with teenagers. And all the time I call up to ask to volunteer, I'm getting a runaround. Well, I'm tired of the runaround. I like to offer and volunteer and help the teenagers that need the help. Not these ones that don't want the help. If you don't want the help, I'm not going to waste my time. Other than that, I just like to see what's right and done right. And I know the gun laws ain't going to change. How many guns you get in the United States? Too many. Way too many.
Yeah.
I just like to see if there's, coming over here, like I said, it's my first time here. Just like to see a lot of things I know are not going to change. And bringing something else up is, I lost a good friend of mine in the 1970s by a drunk driver. He had his head split open at a young age. And I've been against drunk drivers since I lost him, and that was in 19...
Okay, you're going to have to wrap it up, Dana. Your time's up.
Okay.
Okay. You know, thanks for coming over. I don't know what we can do about the gun laws. I'm not sure, but there are people go to the county and get permits to carry concealed weapons. But
Wow.
problem is the ones that were down into Nugget shooting around were, I'm sure, not
I know all
qualified to
about
have
that.
a permit, didn't have a permit or whatever. And it's tough for us to search everybody that comes into town to see if they got a
That you
illegal
can't do.
gun.
I understand that point.
Well, thanks for coming down anyway. We appreciate
Okay. But I will keep on writing letters.
it. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else under public comment? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to did I miss one here? On my list, I've got a request from Councilman Ron Smith to reconsider an action taken at a regular meeting of September 26, 2011. Are we going to act on that?
Mr. Mayor, I did receive a written request from Mr. Smith, who voted on the prevailing side, that this issue be brought back. This would be the correct time and place for the council to act on his request that it be added to today's agenda.
Okay, questions, or I'm looking for a motion? We need a motion on this, Sean? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion? Mr. Schmidt, I don't see, we're not working right here for some reason.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I'll make a motion on behalf of Councilman Ron Smith to bring this item back on today's agenda.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schmidt, second by Mr. Lawson to reconsider this item. Any further discussion? Let's see if the machine works. If not, please vote.
She's a blinking.
Passed unanimously with those present. Okay, next is approval of the agenda. Anybody want to take anything out of order? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to approve the agenda is outlined.
do you have a second? Looks like we're working, so buzz in. Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Right, next is recommendation to approve minutes of the Sparks City Council workshop of August 23, 2011, and the regular meeting of September 26, 2011. Any additions or corrections? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve the minutes of the workshop of August 23rd and the regular meeting of September 26, 2011. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Moving right along. We have no announcements and presentations. Let's move on to consent items. Anybody want to pull a consent item? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion we approve consent items 5.1 through 5.10 as outlined by staff.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve consent items 5.1 through 5.10. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. I got sidetracked there for a minute. Okay, let's move on to general business. Consideration of possible approval of FFY11 Federal Fiscal Year 2011 Emergency Management Performance Grant funds for continuance of the city's ongoing emergency management efforts. Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Driscoll, Assistant City Manager for the record, and acting in my capacity as your emergency manager on this particular item. This is a continuation of a grant that we've received for numerous business cycles from the federal government related to planning and training for emergency preparedness. It comes through from FEMA into the Department of Emergency Management. We coordinate our training and emergency actions with the state and the county, and as a result of that, we have continued to receive this grant. It's in the amount of $80,225. It is for the federal fiscal year, which has already closed, but there's a 6-month extension to finish up any work that was done since we didn't know if we were going to get this. What we do with this grant is we use it as in-kind match for salary dollars for employees who are on staff that are taking time to work specifically on emergency management. And so we have a work plan that they work towards, and so there's no actual dollars, additional dollars spent by the city in accepting this grant. So at this time, I was asking for the council to consider and approve receiving of $80,225 for the EMPG grant.
Questions? Okay, seeing no questions, looking for a motion. Don't be bashful. Mr. Lawson.
I move to approve item 6.1.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve agenda item 6.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move to 6.2, consideration and possible acceptance of a State of Nevada Department of Public Safety Office of Traffic Safety grant in the amount of $92,100. Chief Allen, welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. What we have before you today is just a continuation of a program that we have been a participant in since 2002. It is the yearly grant from the Office of Traffic Safety Joining Forces program, and this year the amount is for $92,100 to enforce 15 scheduled events that we have throughout the city. These are the events like Click It or Ticket, seatbelt enforcement, DUI campaigns, and those such things. And this year it has a new campaign with the new state law for distracted driving, including people who are going to be using cell phones, texting while driving, and such. The match on this is what is called a soft match. It is to cover some of the salaries of our administrator, and then also the use of the vehicles and wear and tear on cars and stuff. So there is no hard cost associated with the acceptance of this funds.
Okay. Questions for Deputy Chief Allen? Okay, if not, looking for a motion. Mr. Kerrigan.
Move for approval.
Do you have a second? Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Kerrigan, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve agenda item 6.2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, next is 6.3, consideration and possible award of a contract for large pipe assessment management baseline assessment with Red Zone Robotics in the amount of $411,370. Mr. Martini and Mr. Hummel, welcome. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The item before you today, large diameter assessment program contract with Red Zone Robotics. Prepared a quick PowerPoint presentation, kind of show you how we got to where we're at, what we want out of this program. Some figures that don't show up real well in black and white. So with that, summary of need. In the city of Sparks, we have almost 41 miles of large diameter sewer interceptor. And by large, that's for us anything 18 inches and bigger. And where that's key is when we start getting to that size, our ability to look into that pipeline with the equipment we have is not really possible. Start getting high flows, things like that beat our equipment up, really can't tell anything. So have to look outside. There's also a variety of techniques and technologies available. Our system is just a camera, so just get a picture of the pipe. Some other really cool technology that is available out there. And also what we wanted was something that would work with the data we already have from our small diameter assessment. In terms of looking at assessment area, the map there is essentially the backbone of our system. We also looked at age of pipe, size, materials. Some materials are more prone to wearing out quicker than others, and also ownership. First area that we picked was within central area of Sparks, 3 different interceptors. One we call the Central McCarran York interceptor, this green one, Central Victorian, the purple, and then the existing Spanish Springs interceptor. A little over 8 miles total of pipeline there.
Andy, how old are these sections?
These in age ranged anywhere from, they were constructed in the 1950s to 1970s, so looking at anywhere from 40 to 60 years old. And for the most part, concrete pipes. Some of it in there is still some clay. From a data needs standpoint, things that we'd like to know, how much debris, sediment we have in that line. Does it need to be clean? Are we losing capacity because of that? How much life is left? Are we to the point where the pipe's wearing out because of gas, erosion, that type of stuff? Anything that's an immediate attention. Do we have a pipe that's about to fail? Any long-term needs, something that needs to be fixed 5, 10, 15 years from now? And based on that, some appropriate rehab. Do we slip line it, dig it up and replace it? Things like that, so that we can use that information to help us develop a long-term CIP. In terms of meeting those needs, the available technologies, CCTV, closed caption television, that's what we use on our small diameter. It basically just gives us a video of the pipe. There's laser, where we can measure the pipe above the water. Sonar looks below the water, can tell sediment buildup as well as pipe erosion. And then also, if we can, look at gas levels, which can be a predictor of how fast the pipe could deteriorate. As far as getting to the proposal we have today, earlier in the year we did an RFP process for a list of on-call qualified professionals, which was approved by council on June 27th. Based on that list, we selected Red Zone, negotiated the first phase based on their abilities, technology, and experience. This is a picture of one of the robots that they use. This was originally developed in Long Island with the nuclear disaster there, to be able to send a robot in and tell what damage was there without any danger to humans. But This specific robot here, can do laser, sonar, the camera, as well as gas sensors all in one unit. Can go about 8,000 feet in each direction from one point to help us lower traffic control costs and impacts. This one can work in a pipe from 36 inches and bigger. For the smaller ones, they'll be using a different robot that normally doesn't get laser, but they are testing it for our project at no cost to give us one of the first agencies to actually get that data.
So you were talking about looking at pipes that, in when they're in full flow?
Yeah.
Some of them
And
could be.
this robot can do
Yeah, can
that, or is
handle-
it something different?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, one of the reasons it's taken us a while to bring this before you is we've spent a long time looking at how to assess these pipes. Part of the problem is these are our interceptors. This is where all the pipes gather up to then be sent across the river to the treatment facility. These pipes run pretty close to half to three-quarters full most of the time. Just getting a camera in there, and you'll only see what's above the water level.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily helpful. Finding this technology has taken us a while. I realize this is a large cost item, but as we're working through our assessment program, we're assigning risk to pipes. These are our riskiest pipes because if one of these fails, we have a lot of customers out of service, as well as potential environmental effects. So that's why we searched for a technology that can give us the most data per run and help us determine how much life is left in these pipes moving forward. It's the one piece of the puzzle we don't have, and it is very critical.
Okay.
So some examples of what we'll get out of this. First one here, this is a standard CCTV view. This is any of the data that's currently in our system that our crews can give us on the smaller pipes, basically just a video of the pipe itself. This is some examples of what the laser data can do. A picture here of where you can kind of see the rebar exposed in the pipe, and then over here on the right in varying colors is actually how much of that pipe is worn away, or it's measuring that. From a sediment standpoint, the sonar view along the bottom here in the red, how much debris is there. If we do need to go in and clean, that'll be key in knowing how much actually needs to be removed. The contractor is going to want to know that to give us an accurate cost. And then finally, the sample report. Cross-section view of all that data together. Above the water line, here in red, what the laser picked up, how much that pipe is worn, kind of shown by the laser view over here. And then at the bottom, how much it's either built up or has lost, where you can actually quantify that. So if you know how big that pipe was to begin with, how much is worn away, if it was a 4-inch wall and 2 inches that are worn away, you're looking pretty dangerously. At the bottom, what the sonar picks up, the debris at the bottom, you can kind of tell how much capacity you've lost and when you may need to clean. And based on the lifespan or the age of that pipe, as well as the gas levels they pick up, can also help in predicting how long that pipe has left in it, as far as the lifespan and how soon we need to either program a repair or replacement. And that's pretty much it for pictures. With that, if you have anything to add, John?
I don't.
If there's any questions.
Questions for Andy or John? Mr. Lawson?
John, what does a robot like that cost?
I think if
Could we buy one? Let me ask you that.
No, it's very proprietary. Red Zone Robotics holds the patent on these that Andy said. They started it with the 3 Mile Island project. To actually go buy the responder unit, I don't think we could purchase it ourselves. Or if we did, I don't think we could afford it. I would assume, based on our discussions with the Red Zone, they're probably into that product. I wouldn't be surprised if it's $40 million in development costs.
Mm-hmm. It's, $411,000. It seems like a lot of money, but
It does.
then I'm just trying to get a perspective. If one of these interceptors fails,
Yeah.
what do we?
If an interceptor were to fail, our first response will be to bypass that section that failed. From the data Andy and I have reviewed from our projects where we do bypass pumping, on an interceptor we could literally be looking at $20,000 a day to bypass pump while we repair or even assess what the failure was. So we would have ongoing costs in bypass.
And what would be your indicator of a failure?
Oh,
you have sewage
I think it would
up
be
through the streets.
Yes, I think it'd be pretty clear. If we had a section of pipe collapse, it would back it up to the nearest manhole and probably start coming out the manhole.
As well as we'd probably create a sinkhole.
Yeah, in our streets would be
Plus, what
another
kind of
issue.
environmental penalties you're going to have?
That's where I was going to go next. With
$7,000 a day now.
$27,500 a day, if it made it to the Truckee River, for sure, we'd be fine.
So when I look at 411, I say, wow, that's a big number. But then I look at the collateral damage. If
Yes.
it were to fail, we could eat that up in a heartbeat.
We could eat that up in a heartbeat, and what's important to me is that we don't get on any of the federal lists for sanitary sewer overflow issues. It has become a bit of a national issue as they review municipalities that operate sanitary sewer systems. They kind of have a flag set per capita. If you have a certain amount of sewer overflow above a certain threshold, you go on their list and they'll come in and help us operate our system, which I would like to avoid.
Yeah, mostly help us spend money.
And I think in my rudimentary math that I learned, that's about $10 a foot to evaluate. So
Yes.
Yep.
And for what we're getting, when you combine the three technologies, the sonar, the laser, and Andy mentioned the gas attack, most of our pipes are concrete. And if you know those gas levels, there are some studies that have been done. If you have certain gas levels, you're eating your concrete along the crown of that pipe at a certain rate per year. That'll be very good for us to know, considering the age of these pipes.
okay.
Yeah, it seems like something that we can't afford not to do.
Well, if you look at Mr. Hummel's map, a lot of these pipes are in our industrial area, and they are near the Truckee River. I think it's very critical that we understand to our best ability where these pipes are, how much lifespan they got left. I'm very curious to see the sediment build up in the bottom, since we have a hard time maintaining them because of their size. It's a specialized equipment to clean them as well.
Anything that's as old as I am needs some preventative maintenance.
Yes.
Any other questions? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
I move to accept the award the contract for large pipe assessment management baseline assessment with Red Zone Robotics in the amount of $411,370.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve agenda item 6.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Mayor.
gentlemen.
Members of the council.
Appreciate it. 6.4, consideration and possible approval of amendment number 5 to the cooperative agreement between the City of Reno, Washoe County, and the City of Sparks for services related to the operation of the Community Assistance Center. Armando.
Mayor Martini, members of the City Council, Armando Anello, City Planner. This is the fifth amendment. The previous amendment extended the cooperative agreement through January 31st of 2012. This amendment, number 5, would extend the agreement for an additional 17 months, that is, for the remainder of the current fiscal year, and then through all of fiscal year 2012-13. Amendment 5 also settles for the time being the question of whether the City of Reno or Washoe County would be the lead entity. It provides for Reno to be the lead entity through the term of the agreement. And if Amendment 5 is approved by all three jurisdictions, the other two jurisdictions are considering that later this week, then the City of Reno as lead entity would proceed with issuing a new request for proposals for shelter operations. Per Amendment number 5, the City of Sparks would continue to contribute funds from the $84,976 of CDBG funding it budgeted for this purpose for the current fiscal year. The one caveat to that continuity of going through the 2012-13 period is that the agreement is essentially silent on funding for that subsequent year, and so it would be contingent on appropriations from each of the three jurisdictions through their respective budget processes. Finally, the Transitional Governing Board, on which Sparks is represented by Mayor Martini, reviewed Amendment 5 on September 29th, and the Transitional Governing Board has recommended approval to the Sparks and Reno City Councils and to the Washoe County Commission. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Armando? Not looking for a motion. Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, I move to approve the Amendment 5 to the cooperative agreement between Reno, Washoe County, and the City of Sparks.
Do you have a second? Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Kerrigan, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve Agenda Item 6.4. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Ron? That's all right. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Armando. Next, we have 6.5 as a first reading.
A general ordinance providing for the rezoning of certain lands from industrial transitional overlay to industrial for 3 parcels totaling 17,511 square feet located at 1933 Fraser Avenue in Sparks, Nevada, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
This is the first reading of Bill Number 2637. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular City Council meeting on Monday, October 24th, 2011. Okay, let's move on to public hearings. Okay, first is a request from Councilmember Ron Smith to reconsider an action taken at the regular meeting of September 26, 2011 regarding a public hearing, consideration and possible adoption of Bill Number 2636, and an ordinance redistricting the City Council ward boundaries based on 2010 United States Census. Mr. Rundle. So really, this is just for us to decide whether we want to reconsider it, is it not, Sean? Yeah, I thought we did too. So we can vote for reconsideration. Okay. So you're, if this passes, then you're on with 7.2, correct? Yeah, okay. So any questions about 7.1 or reconsideration? If not, looking for a motion.
Yes, sir.
Still looking for a motion.
I thought we did. Isn't that what we did in the beginning?
No, I think we just voted to bring it back, and now we have to approve for reconsideration, or am I wrong?
That is correct.
No, I thought.
I thought you approved Councilman Smith's request.
Okay. All right, let's just move on to 7.2 then.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
7.2 is a public hearing for reconsideration of Bill Number 2636, and whoops.
Manager's giving me the no.
Intent was to first ask you to add it to your agenda, and then this was the item where you could actually vote to reconsider the ordinance. So if I included an unnecessary step there, you have my apology.
Yeah. Technically, you took 7.2 out of order early on, so it'd probably be better if you went ahead and revoted on it. Just
Revoted on 7.1?
On 7.1, excuse
Yeah,
me.
okay.
You took 7.1 out of order.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion then that we reconsider.
Do you have a second? Mr. Schmidt.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Kerrigan, seconded by Councilman Schmidt for reconsideration of Agenda Item 7.1. Any further discussion? See what happens when you get here late, Judy. Please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, now let's move on to 7.2. Public hearing for reconsideration of Bill Number 2636, an ordinance redistricting the city ward boundaries based on the 2010 United States Census. Mr. Rundle.
Jim Rundle, Senior Planner here to present the proposal for the ward redistricting. At the September 26th meeting, the City Council voted to approve one of the ward boundary maps, and staff moved forward with the recommendations as approved on the September 26th meeting. Let me put that up here
Okay.
Okay. In the staff report, the item was labeled as boundaries 1C as modified, and I just wanted to point out that staff did the analysis, and unfortunately, the modifications were outside of the 5% threshold for population distribution between wards. So staff has proposed what we're calling a 1F for the ward boundaries, and that includes the area discussed at the last council meeting to include a portion off of Los Altos and Vista into the Vistas Homeowners Association. That keeps all of the Vistas in the Ward 4, all of the area in the Vistas HOA into Ward 4. To do that, staff had to propose some other modifications to the ward boundary map. Essentially, we moved some area at the intersection of Greenbrae and McCarran and Prater into Ward 5, and then we moved some area from Ward 5 into Ward 3 at the intersection of Bering and Sparks Boulevard. We have made this proposal 1F, and it does comply with all of the discussion that I believe has occurred in all the public hearings with the City Council, and it does meet the 5% threshold. And that concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Rundle? Okay, seeing no questions, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing to the audience. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Questions or a motion?
I think it's an ordinance, Councilwoman Reddy,
2636. Ms. Reddy.
So I move to approve proposed ward boundary map 1F and adopt bill number 2636, an ordinance restricting the city council ward boundaries based on the 2010 United States Census.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Ratty, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve bill number 2636, new ward boundaries. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. You want to display? Okay. All righty then. Passed unanimously. Thanks, Jim. Good job. That was long and tedious, but we got through it, so congratulations. Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations to you all.
Okay, let's move on to planning and zoning. Public hearing, consideration, and possible action on resolution number 3206, a resolution revising fees related to development services provided by the City of Sparks, specifically adjusting fees for special use permits, site plan reviews, code amendments, and expired tentative subdivision maps. Mr. Rundle again.
Jim Rundle, Senior Planner, here to present a proposal to stimulate business investment, promote job growth in the City of Sparks. Staff is proposing to eliminate certain fees and reduce fees associated with special use permits, plan reviews, site plan reviews, code amendments, and reviews of expired tentative maps. The Development Services Enterprise Fund was created by City Council action in 1999. The intent was to have the development community pay for services that the city provided. At a recent City Council retreat, the City Council requested that staff look at amendments to the development codes and to remove barriers from development and job creation. This proposal here today is to amend a resolution which governs the fees associated with development services such as special use permits, site plan reviews, code amendments, and tentative maps. Currently, there are three types of special use permits: a major, routine, and minor. A major requires a $10,000 deposit, a routine is a flat $13,385 fee, and a minor is a $7,495 fee. Staff is proposing to eliminate the three types of special use permits and just have a special use permit fee at $2,500 and charge for time and materials. The site plan review fee is very similar to that of the special use permit. Currently, there are two types of site plan reviews, a routine and a minor. A routine is $6,975 and a minor is $4,250. Staff is proposing to remove the two types of site plan review and require a deposit of $1,500 as a deposit and charge time and materials toward that deposit. Lastly, staff is proposing to revise the fee to review an expired tentative subdivision map. The fee is currently $16,050. Similar to that of the special use permit and site plan review, staff is proposing to require a deposit of $2,500 and charge time and materials toward that fee, toward that deposit. The other fee that is currently on the fee list is a code amendment fee, and staff is proposing to eliminate that entirely. And that concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Rundle? Mr. Lawson?
Jim, my first question I have, do we track our time right now?
We track our time on handbooks, plan development reviews, but we don't necessarily track our time on typical special use permits. If it's a major special use permit that requires the $15,000 fee, then we would track our time. It just depends on which type of entitlement we're talking about.
So does this add more paperwork for you guys to track your time if I come in with just a regular old SUP?
Yes.
And how do you track your time at this point? I mean, I know my lawyer, he pushes a button every time he sees my face, so is that kind of the same way?
I don't know how to answer it specifically. We would do something similar. If we talk to an applicant on the phone for 2 minutes, we're not going to charge for 2 minutes. But if we work with an applicant in a plan review meeting for an hour, we're going to probably charge an hour toward the deposit.
And do we charge that by the person? Because generally there's more than just one person in the room.
Well, if you're saying if there was a plan review
Let's
meeting.
say there's 5 of us and one guy applying.
You would charge toward
5
the
hours?
project. So if you're in a plan review meeting and the applicant brings in 5 representatives, you're going to charge, and it's an hour-long meeting, you would charge for an hour.
Talking about city people.
How about the other way around?
Oh, okay.
You guys make lousy lawyers, I'll tell
Exactly. And there's another reason why your attorney presses a button when he sees your face, Ed. It's not about insurance.
That's called security, I know.
Yeah.
For the record, Neil Cruz, Director of Community Services. To more directly answer your question, yes, we would charge by the person for the time served, very similar to the way your attorney charges you for time. I don't imagine we would charge you in 6-minute increments for your phone calls, the same way that perhaps your attorney does, but we spend 15 minutes on the phone with you, we're going to log 15 minutes against the time we spent on your account. If there are 5 of us in a plan review meeting with you, participating in the meeting, then we're going to charge you for those 5 individuals' time. Yes, sir.
And then that will be an accounting that applicant will receive at the end of the process or sometime during the process? Could I say, well,
Yes.
I only want to spend $2,500 and we're up to $5,000 now. Is there somewhere in there, can you tell me when I'm approaching the $2,500 mark?
We are not equipped to give somebody a warning when they will have approached a certain dollar amount. I'll tell you that right now. What we will be able to do is on a monthly basis, we will be able to kick out progress bills and do it that way. But not set a warning and, hey, let me know when I've hit 90% of 2,500. No.
I just have a concern because I know that in my business, we open a T&M order and all of a sudden that is fair game for everyone to put hours on. And that's my one concern is that, well, I talk to the client, so I'm going to put 1 hour of my day there, 15 minutes or whatever. So, and it's unintentional, but it does seem to use the money up a lot faster.
before I came to work for the city, I came from consulting, and frankly, that's a problem that I wish I had at the city. One of the problems that I've always struggled with on those certain services where we've done time and materials work is having people track their time better so that we made sure we were recovering our costs more effectively. Sometimes, or historically, I feel, have given away our time more than we should have. So I come at it from the other way and want people to be doing a better job of keeping track of those 15-minute phone calls and not thinking, well, I was only on the phone for, 15 minutes. It's no big deal.
Yeah. That's all I have for now.
Anyone else? Has this been reviewed by the committee that?
It has not. We were moving very quickly to get this in front of you. I did have a conversation with Mr. Jess Traver, who represents the Builders Association, and perhaps you might want to invite him down and give him a chance to offer some public comment. But he and I did have a conversation before the meeting here today, and I think we've reached something we can both live with. And maybe as he's making his comments, he can talk.
I'll bring him down as soon as we do public comment. Is that okay, Jess? Okay. Any other questions from the dais?
Or I should be in queue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julia.
So I had the same question if we took it before what is the name of that committee?
The development.
Users group.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't. And then I guess my question is, first of all, I want to commend the staff on taking to the spirit of the retreat, which was let's move some of these things along quickly. And then I'm surprised at how quickly. So congratulations, and wow, that was fast. So in that, wow, that was fast piece, I'm just a little bit of concern about, did we take the time to do the financial analysis, or is it possible to do the financial analysis to overlay something like this new proposal with a higher peak period of use? Because my concern is, while it would be great that we would be reducing fees for the community, will we be able to, once building picks up again, pay for the staff that we need to support that building and not find ourselves in the catch-22 on the other side of this economy, which is unable to do the customer service we need to do because we don't have the staffing level, which is how the enterprise fund is supposed to work, right?
And certainly we are in a catch-22 situation. This is a short-term step. Stepping back and speaking to the financial analysis, the economy is in such sad shape. Our ability to forecast revenues has been, we've not been able to forecast revenues for about the last 4 years. So, trying to look forward and see what's out there has been a very difficult process for the last 4 years. One of the things that we are hopeful for is that in lowering the costs, we are reducing, a barrier to entry, if you will, and that there is some pent-up demand out there that will now come our way, and that we will soon begin to suffer a demand problem. That would be a good place to be. We are going to have to revisit when the economy does really come back, and there is true demand for services that exceeds the number of planners that we have, the number of engineers, the number of building inspectors and plans examiners. That is going to be a longer-term problem that we are going to have to address. From what I hear in the community, I don't see us necessarily having to address that in this fiscal year, or maybe even the next. Maybe that's more of a medium-term problem. But nevertheless, another issue is that certainly as we reduce our fees in one area, where is that money going to come from? And we, in the Development Services Enterprise Fund, have been living on a general fund subsidy for the last 3 years. Granted, every year has gotten smaller than the year before. If we hadn't been looking to reduce our fees this year, I would be anticipating that maybe we wouldn't need a subsidy in the year that we've just started. So maybe the subsidy that we will need by reducing these fees won't be a whole lot. But in as much as, we can't reliably forecast right now, I can't put a reliable dollar number on what that is. So we are taking on some unknowns as we do this.
Okay.
But it is our recommendation that it's a risk worth taking.
So just to say two things back to you to make sure that I hear what you're saying. One would be that you think that the fee structure that you're proposing will be appropriate and not have significant harm to the department in this economy, or a similar economy.
Yes.
And then that it should be clear to everybody that as we're doing this, if the economic factors change, we'd have to take another look.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Schmidt?
Mayor, I too want to say thanks, staff, for bringing us so quickly. I think this is a great response to the retreat and a program that I'm going to support at this time. I think my only comment is I just want to make sure the council knows that this is not a reduction of cost to the city. This is a reduction of income, and with reduction of income, and expenses the same, you have to subsidize somewhere else. So why that place that this money is coming from is not part of this discussion or part of the package, somewhere somebody has to address the issue and say, okay, well, we're going to take this out of general fund. What does that mean? Well, that's police, first fire, parks and rec, someplace, ending fund balance. I've heard everybody wants to take the ending fund balance away. But, these costs did not go down. Costs are still there. And somewhere, somebody has to identify where this balance of the budget is going to come from. And that's got to be done by the end of the year somehow. There's got to be a transfer to cover that. And two, I'm also concerned with the time frame, and I'd like to throw one out for discussion of putting a one-year time frame on it, that it comes back to the council in a year. Let's do a performance standard. Let's see what happened, how much money did it cost us in the long run, and then bring it back next year at this time and say, okay, let's tweak it. Let's see what we can do. I mean, it's not didn't take us very long to get here. I don't think the report will be very long in a year to do. So we get a chance to talk about it again. Was it successful or not?
That, from a staff perspective, that would be very easy to satisfy. Back in a year with a report on what transpired.
You're down the list there, Slick. Mr. Lawson.
Make sure I'm down there.
You're on the list.
Got it covered now.
I want to echo Councilman Schmidt's thoughts. In the private sector, we're evaluating weekly. So, and by no means would this be a panacea catch-all to be done forever and ever. So I think a 1 year is a very good time frame. I also think, though, at 6 months, we should probably evaluate to see what types of different things are coming through. Are we getting more special use permits? And I'm going to propose that we have two on the special use permit. One is above 100,000, one below 100,000, and two different fees for that. Just because I think there's some of that pent-up demand in the below 100,000 range, and I think any type of activity in our community is going to be good activity. And at $2,500, that's roughly 20 hours for a $100,000 project or a $30,000 addition on a business. I think that's. I don't think we should take that long to review it. So that's going to be one of my proposals. But I'm glad you guys came back with this so quickly. We needed to do something. We need to be the leaders in the community. I think we're showing that as a group, and very proud of what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Go ahead.
You're done? Mm-hmm. Mr. Addy. I moved up.
Slick is up.
Slick is up.
Great.
He gave the floor over to you, Slick.
Thanks. So when we're doing that analysis, whether it be 6 months or a year, is it possible, because I think the other thing, if I heard what you were saying, Mr. Rundle, was that we're not tracking our time on these now. You're going by what you know, having worked in the department, which I think is probably a pretty good assessment of the fact that it's going to be cheaper for most clients.
Yes.
But as we do that year, can we actually, I know it would be implementing two systems, but can we do it side by side so that we know if we had done it on the old system, it would have cost this much, if we had done it on the new system, it cost this much?
Yes, we can.
Because the other one's a flat fee, so
The
that
other
should be
one's a flat
pretty
fee.
simple to
That should be
tell.
very simple.
Right.
Yeah, we would have charged
14,000
X.
essentially.
Right.
Yes.
So that when it comes back in a year, it's not only an analysis of did it work for us and are we able to maintain our expenses,
Yes.
Our costs, but did it work for the development community?
Yes.
In that folks actually did get a cheaper.
And to take that thought process one step further, it will help us in looking forward towards future fees.
And what works best.
Because the last time that we took a comprehensive look at our fee structure in the Development Services Enterprise Fund was 2005, when we went through and did things like man-hour studies and overhead rates to, appropriately assign the fees that you are changing today or considering changing today.
So given that volume, that's...
It would be good information to have.
Okay. And then I'm curious also from Mr. Traver, that I understand lower cost is good, but uncertainty is bad. And so I'm curious about, in some cases, I think that people will feel more comfortable with a flat fee than they will with a hourly rate that they don't know going in what it's going to be. So if we get to the place where we can at least say what a typical project looks like?
Well, and that comes back to the thought behind the three-tiered system that we have in place today.
Right.
So there's certainly some experimentation that we are asking you to allow us to undertake here today, and we are certainly in a new economy where the types of projects that are being brought forward to us today are significantly different than we saw 5 years ago.
Okay. So maybe we'll get some clarification or some clarity around that during public comment.
Mr. Kerrigan.
No, and just backing me, I wanted to thank you, too, for the speed which you brought this forward. I was thinking on the more of the lower end with some people that needed to change one word in the special use permit. That's kind of what generated me, asking to get this thing kind of moving a little faster. So I wanted to thank you for that, because the way I see this, probably at the outside, some small change would be 1 hour's worth of work at $120.
Yes.
I think everybody could live with that. As far as a flat fee goes, I mean, the highest they were paying was, what, $16,000 for a special use permit? Was that it?
For the most part, we didn't have very many majors. For the most part, they were routines, which is around 14,000.
Yeah, but divide 14,000 by 120, how many hours is that? What's that? Yeah, that's a lot of hours.
And that, as Neil, the director, explained earlier, it wasn't 120 planner hours. It's divvied up between engineering, fire, planning, building.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that still is, from my point of view, a lot of hours.
And it's all depending upon the projects that you guys has described. And
right. And I hope we get into that position where we are talking about the big projects again.
Yes.
Right? But right now,
Yes, sir.
we're not.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the public. Anyone in the audience like to speak, Mr. Traver? And if you would, when you're done, just fill out one of these cards. You know the drill. Come on down and have a seat.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Just Traver Builders Association, Northern Nevada, and I first want to say how much we really appreciate your leadership in, discovering some ways of getting our economy back in shape in the city of Sparks. Jobs bill, looking at different ways to, on your fee structure and stuff, and we greatly appreciate that, and thank you for your leadership in this. Our only concern on this, normally issues like this or initiatives like this come through the Building Enterprise Fund Committee. They're discussed in that committee. Our association just got wind of this last week, so, we're kind of going through and trying to sort out, what this is all about. Is it a fee reduction or is it, exactly what it is? This hasn't been a fee reduction in another entity. It's actually been a problem by doing time and material type fee collection. It's actually been a problem, and we're addressing that in another entity. This is the City of Sparks. City of Sparks is, has some good people in it here, and, we'll give you a benefit of the doubt, and I think it's, a great effort. A 6 months trial period, I think that's something that we could look at, and I think we can get on with, approval of this agenda item, and we appreciate it again.
Mr. Traver, one question for me. There was, in Mike Dillon's email, there was related to some unintended consequences in the city of Reno. Can you enlighten us maybe what that was?
Well, it's just like Councilman Lawson pointed out. If we don't have a cap on how much, you can expend on a project, the sky's the limit. And that can be a problem. That can be a very serious problem. Actually, on a $14,000 special use permit, it's far exceeded that in other places. So we need to watch that. If you wanted to put a cap on it, I'd recommend that. If you want to look at a 6 months grace period and review where you're at on it, I think it's a good initiative that you guys are looking at on, promoting growth in here and getting our economy back in shape and getting some jobs in this community. And we thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Schmidt?
No, thank you for coming down, because I think that you bring up a very valid point, and I think we need to maybe go back and revisit this if maybe a county can give us some pointers or how we can go ahead and do a tracking system and a notification system right away. Is there anything built in our accounting system that, they know when they're going to get to the $2,500 cap or $10,000 or whatever it is, so it's not a surprise that you get a bill for $20,000? Because I agree with you. There should be some checks and balances to it. I think staff intention and the council's intention is that these things are going to come in much less, that we're going to push these things faster.
Yes, and we appreciate
I think that's everybody's intentions here. Nobody that
And
I'm
there's no-
aware of.
And there's no
staff
doubt
or
in our
anything.
mind either that the city of Sparks, that's your intention.
I don't think anybody wants to do this. I think everybody, but, there is a sense of accountability that one time that it does happen, how do you head that off at the pass so it doesn't? And maybe that's just for staff to come through and see, we turn in time cards every 2 weeks, so at least there should be every 2 weeks there should be the ability for something to kick on up and say this project line is moving above cost.
Okay, Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I think the way that we can make you feel easier about it, because I understand trust, is maybe we should go from the bottom end that we're talking about now and just cap it. Like whatever the small, medium, and large project was, we'll cap it at that. Would that make you feel more comfortable?
And that's great. The only problem with that is you always go to your cap, but, I have no idea. Okay. Let's test it out.
Because I'm trying to give you a little bit of comfort here,
And
because what'll happen
appreciate
is
that.
you would have been paying that if we wouldn't have acted on this
Exactly.
anyway. So anything less than that would have been a deal.
Yes.
And we are actually talking, I think, at least from my point of view, I was thinking on the lower end that there are some people that aren't coming in
You bet.
because things are a little bit too expensive. But I wouldn't have a problem putting the cap on it at all.
Mhm.
And then, checking it out after 6, because I really don't think it's going to hit the cap, to be real honest with you.
And I hope not either.
And
I
we
hope
pull
we
the
do have
cap
a lot
off, and then we're going to go crazy on you, right? No, I'm just
No.
kidding.
I think Mr. Rundle had a comment.
Not to conflict with anything that's been discussed, but I want to add that to an extent, this isn't a new system that we're proposing here. This is what we've been doing for quite some time with plan development handbooks. And I don't know that the council's received any complaints that staff is cooking the books to receive more funds. So
And I didn't want to refer cooking books.
I just mean to say that
I'm just saying,
we have been doing it
everybody
for a
comfort
while.
level. I don't think there's going to be a problem with putting a cap on it, because hopefully, unless it's really a hard project, we'll never get to the cap anyway, so.
Mr. Lawson.
And just to reiterate the trust level there is, the best intentions on T&Ms always seem to go out the window. So I'm in favor of the cap also. But it is a new system. I think we all have our best foot forward in trying to make something good happen. I don't believe that the city of Sparks would defraud anybody on purpose. That we're trying to make something good happen, and sometimes you got to take a little bit of risk, and that's kind of where we are at this point. So thank you,
Ms. Ratty.
Just a couple things. I would support a cap for this round, especially for the 6 months. Let's just see what happens so that, no one individual is taking that risk. But I'll just give you an example from the health department because it's actually less about cooking the books. I don't think that was the term, but more about a systems piece and an implementation of that system. So I'll just give you a health department example that has happened in our last fee structure. We had a turnover of a department head. The new department head came in and was more rigorous about getting his employees to track time, and there was a significant increase in the fees for that particular department because they were both using the exact same system, but there was a management change that made the system more robust, we'll just say. So I do think that there are real issues. I like Mr. Rendell's point that we've been doing this for a while. It's not the first time we've done it. We've done it on another thing. So, I think it's not intentional on either side. It's not about trust. It's just the real things that happen with individuals operating within a system, and that's something that you'll be charged with, Mr. Crutzen, making sure that doesn't happen. The other piece, though, that I think is the other side of the coin, and certainly not you or any of your members, but we do have the occasional high-maintenance client.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that are driving the volume of meetings and the volume of, when we've answered the same question the same way 15 times and they just don't like the answer, that they're built, and that's building time. And so, the flip side of that, and I guess this is what we're trying to do with healthcare these days, right, is to try to get people to understand the costs that they're incurring and be a little bit more thoughtful about how they use services. And so at some point after the 6-month trial, because I'm okay with the cap for the 6 months, but I think we do need to look at what are the disincentives for somebody who's pushing it from the other side of the equation.
And that's very true. And I'm glad you brought it up because it should balance. There should be some kind of a balance in there to take care of those high-maintenance type of projects.
Great. Thank you.
Neil, do you have something?
I would like to make a proposal that takes.
You want to, let's get the public comment out of the way, and then we'll do that under. Anyone else in the public like to speak to this? Okay, thanks, Mr. Traver.
Thank you.
All right, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to staff and council for action. Mr. Cruz.
Okay, understanding the desire for a cap, I would propose that we eliminate the routine and the minor special use permits and go to the $2,500 deposit and build on a time and materials basis, subject to a cap of the current minor special use permit fee of $74.95, and that we keep the major special use permit category on our books for the just-in-case big project that comes in, that we all would acknowledge up front is going to be, a 200-hour effort and needs that type of category. That offers the protections to the smaller projects and leaves us room to work on something big if it does come in. And then we bring all of this information back to you in 6 months and report on what we found.
Questions? Ms. Ratty, or Sean Carey?
We just wanted to ask that it be a report back in 6 months, that we don't have a fee schedule that lapses at any time. 6 months in city time is a pretty short window, particularly going into the winter months. So if we could look at reporting in 6 months and reporting in another 6 months, I think you'll have a better data set in about a year. And I didn't want to get in a situation where the fee structure or something was sunsetted. So,
Mr. Lawson.
I would agree with your proposal, Neil, and I just want to add that above 100,000, 2,500, below 100,000, 1,250.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that, Councilman?
We'll use the sign industry, for example.
Okay.
I want to put up a $50,000 pole sign, and I need a special use permit for that. That would be a $1,250 fee, subject to the cap and all of that. But I'd have less upfront. My worry is that we're missing a lot of these below 100,000 projects because of the cost of the SUP. So we could get that in the mix and get some of that smaller stuff going. Everybody's still laying people off. Okay, now whatever work we can get out there, $10,000, $50,000 jobs is just as good as one $500,000.
I want to make sure I understand correctly then. So you're wanting to have a construction cost criteria
basically
that sets the deposit amount.
If I want to add on to my existing building, and that is $50,000 to add on to my building so I can expand my manufacturing or I can expand my cleaners, that would be your cost of the project. Not the entire cost of the brand-new building and all that, just the part that they're coming in.
So if they're if the addition's over $100,000,
then it goes to the next higher fee.
$2,500.
Yep.
If it's under $100,000, the deposit's $1,250. Either way, we're going to work T&M.
Correct.
Concern, you have concerns, Jim? If you, go ahead, speak up, let's.
Lawson, I have a concern with a lot of times we do special use permits, not for construction, but for a use. For example, we did one at last Planning Commission last month for a school, and there's not necessarily an evaluation for that use. Not all special use permits or site plan reviews coordinate with a building permit. So there would be numerous times when we don't have any assessed valuation of a project to determine whether it's more than 100,000 or less than 100,000.
So in that case of the school,
And I'm not saying we can't find a way, but I don't know of one right off the top of my head
let me
yet.
ask you this question. So in the case of the school, that's pretty much a yes or no. How much staff time is really involved in that?
I don't know yet. That would, we charge the typically that, we would look at our fee schedule and charge typically a routine special use permit fee.
And the routine is?
Approximately 14,000.
And so we used 120 hours to approve the school? So that's the other side of the sword, too.
Well,
As I understand the use part of it, and if that's the case, then why don't we just say at $12.50, you're still on T&M, it doesn't matter, just less upfront costs.
So then
gives you more of an incentive to come in and make something happen.
So are you looking then to give us some leeway on setting the deposit amount?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to see some of the smaller projects walk in the door. As I can tell, I have 3 of them right now that I've talked to people, and they just don't want to spend the $14,000 or the $10,000 to come in and maybe or maybe not get.
Okay, so then.
Well,
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm confused, Ed, because I thought what we're proposing here took care of that. We only have one fee, and that's $2,500 based on $120 an hour. You deposit $2,500 if it's if it's something like the school comes in and it takes an hour, it costs them $120. But we'll keep the major in there, so if it's a major project, then they come in for $14,000. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the proposal.
So I don't understand how that does not satisfy what you're talking about.
My concern is still the $2,500. It's
too much.
Yeah, it's still too much. Yeah, and I don't think the smaller people are the ones that are going to grow us out of this economy. The little jobs are what's going to grow us out of
Yeah,
the
but
economy.
what I'm saying is it's almost like when you go hire an attorney and he tells you need a $2,500 retainer, but he'll only charge you $120 an hour, and if it's only 2 hours worth of, and that you get your money back. So you're saying you'd want the $2,500 lowered?
Well, just for the smaller projects.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Lawson, there have been times on handbooks with the $5,000 deposit, we have refunded applicants' fees or portion of their deposit. So it's not impossible that we wouldn't refund a portion of a $2,500 deposit on a very simple site plan review or special use permit.
So in terms of simplicity, which is one of my goals here, perhaps we ought to consider just dropping the deposit to $1,250 for everything.
For everything?
And just move on. That then
I would be happy with that.
Yeah, and the only reason you put $2,500 there is to make sure that it was trust on our end.
Serious about
I
their
understand.
application.
Right.
That's where the $2,500 came from. And $1,250?
I could live with $1,250. I mean, I always thought $2,500 was reasonable, but $1,250 is fine.
Okay, so then my question is, we have a project walk through the door, we think it's going to be 100 hours. Do we know that on the front end?
When, hopefully, they'll come through a pre-application meeting process. And we'll see at the front end, it's 125 acres that's going to generate 4,000 trips a day, that's going to be 250,000 square feet of whatever. And up front, we'll know then.
And so
we'll be able to
we
have.
can tell that client at that time,
Hey,
if
this
the
is a serious.
$1,250 was just thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
It's really going to be more of a major.
This is a huge project.
$10,000.
This is a freeway interchange style of project. This isn't a $1,250 special use permit.
People are shopping around now. I mean, I get that every single day, and I get bid out for a $5,000 sign with 4 other bidders, and that's not unusual. So I want them to shop in Sparks. That's what I'm after. I want people to shop in Sparks to come here to grow our community.
Yes.
So how we accomplish that is really up to us.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Ratty?
Is that pre-planning meeting part of your billing?
No.
No, so that's the freebie?
That's the freebie.
So you come in, you can get your questions
You can
answered.
get your question answered.
You can get, I don't want to go so far as to say an estimate, because we're not talking about a truth in estimating
No.
like a mechanic, but you're going to be able to give them a ballpark of whether or not their project is a significant project, a middle-of-the-road project, or a very easy project.
And then more importantly, from the staff and the design professional perspective, where the major hurdles are going to lie.
Right. And at that time, be able to talk to them about, you drive the cost of this project just as much as we drive the
Yes.
cost of this project.
Yes.
The more organized you can be.
Yes.
So when we say come to this meeting with these 5 things, if you come with those 5 things, your project will be cheaper.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Somebody want to try a motion? Mr. Kerrigan?
Want to try this?
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the new fee structure with $1,250 being a deposit with $120 an hour T&M, and leave the category of, is it major?
Major special use
Major
permit.
special use permit.
And you want a cap in there?
You want the cap on the regular special use permit at the $74.95?
At the 74, yeah, right.
And we'll report back to you in 6 months.
Okay. It's good for a year.
And it's good for a year.
It's good for a year.
Do you have a second?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So now I'm looking at this, my mind is flipping between the guy who wants to take advantage of the system and who wants to make it easier. So the guy that wants to take advantage of this system is going to come in and say, here's your $1,250, and I know I have a much more than a major project here, but you're only going to charge me 74, whatever it was, 74.95.
$74.95.
But I think that's a call from the staff to say, you don't have a minor
Yeah.
project. This is what we consider a major project.
So
Costs
that's the
$14,000.
leeway that I think we got to
Right.
give back to the staff.
I
Is
think-
that
Yes.
you can say up front, you're not a 74.95 project, you are a major project.
Yes, actually, I would ask you to have that to be at my discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to amend Mike's motion to include that.
Well, thank you.
Is that all right with the motion maker?
Why don't you second it, and then I'll
second.
Okay, now I'll amend my motion to include that.
Does the seconder agree with the
And
amendment?
I agree.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Can I just ask one clarification?
Questions?
There were other things in the fee schedule besides, we've been very focused on special use permits, but there were other things in the fee schedule, and they had different levels of deposits. Site plan review is still at $1,500. So are we saying it's
Why don't we make them
$1,250
all,
regardless
why
of
don't
what
we
it
make them
is?
all $1,250?
Okay,
That's
I just,
I thought that was
the KISS principle.
yeah, great.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Kerrigan, seconded by Mr. Lawson. Everyone understand the motion? Anyone understand the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Jim.
Linda doesn't understand.
I'll listen to the tape.
There was a proposal to remove the entire fee for code amendments too, so just wouldn't want to put that one to $1,250.
Put it on the record. Okay. All right. Seeing no further questions, I forgot what I was supposed to do here. Please vote. Thank you. And the winner is passed unanimously. Great job, gentlemen.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot. Appreciate it.
Long ways to get what I wanted to say out, but
Okay, comments.
that's me.
Comments from the city council or city manager?
Mr. Mayor.
Comments from the public?
Oh, I had a,
Oh, I'm sorry.
just a brief
Go ahead,
comment.
Chet.
I would like to thank the clerk's office and who the clerk has been working with in IT for this new agenda structure. It's really, at least from my end, it's really simplified things and helped our office out considerably. Thank you.
It's great for me too, but I had to get new glasses because of the printing.
Here, that's great.
Okay, comments from the public. Anyone in the public like to make a comment? Okay, seeing